So if I start, when you get to the parts of it, and I know where I finished. Do I put it in because it's right over the
It's not wasted on the consent calendar.
And this, I kept trying to put something to get it to how the board is taking.
Well, just, yeah, we didn't fire around us. So,
I didn't see it, I was driving, but I saw the black tag all over it.
fire just like a rough.
Okay, so look, it's literally,
I'm always weary of
you drive by the Canada Boulevard, you go right over the five, and it's right there where the off ramp is. It's right there. Habit River and everything there. So how would I describe that? It's not like an actual address. Because I tried multiple times to try and get it to take it. Okay. Like Panhandling or whatever, Starbucks.
sometimes I don't know the stuff on the bottom.
You'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Wow. So we'll call this meeting to order. And first item is, I got to wait for the tape. Now, do you want me to call this meeting to order? And we will do roll call.
Here.
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 Record will show that all members are present, with the exception of Councilmember San Antonio and O'Hara, and I will record when they arrive.
Very good. And if you will rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, item number 4 is special presentations and proclamations, which we have none tonight. And that brings us to oral comments. And how many do we have tonight?
Mayor, we do have 7.
7, great. So we'll do the full 3 minutes.
Okay, and just a reminder that oral communications is the time to speak on items that are not on the council agenda, and each person has 3 minutes. First 3 speakers, Bernie Dillon, Natalie Satoon, and then Helen Bourne. That's okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for taking down the ballards on Santa Fe Drive. God bless you all. Now I feel a lot safer knowing fire trucks, ambulances, police can get down Santa Fe Drive and get to where they need to get to. Summer is here. Kids are at summer camps, playing at our parks, and lots of skateboarders, e-bikes, and bikes. The city has done an amazing job of posting speed limit signs in multiple places in the parks. Yet people are still choosing to exceed the speed limit, driving through parks behind Vaughn's off of Santa Fe Drive. A big, beautiful BMW sedan drove around me with a park full of kids and flew over the speed bumps like they were not even there. Driving east on Encinitas Boulevard, going under the I-5 freeway, the stoplight turned yellow as I approached. I slowed down, knowing it was going to turn red. The car next to me hit the gas and blew through the 2 intersections past Cali Magdalena. The white Toyota SUV behind that car just blew through 2 red lights. There were pedestrians waiting at Crack Shack to cross. This is not acceptable ever. Bodie, Emery, and others have died because people are making bad choices when they are driving. The cameras that took quick pics of drivers running red lights can and have caused some accidents. But at 24/7, 365-day cameras, they tend not to. Drivers, knowing that these streets have cameras on our thoroughfares such as Santa Fe Drive, Lucadia Boulevard, Encinitas Boulevard, 101, El Camino Real, and Rancho Santa Fe Road, we need to slow the fast down. Making roads smaller is a waste of taxpayers' dollars as people adapt and drive just as fast through them as if they were before. The Sheriff's Department cannot be everywhere in Encinitas, 24/7, 365 days a year, or can they? The video of Emery where she was killed showed drivers exceeding the speed limit on their phones just weeks after her death. Tonight you will finalize the budget. I need you to please consider for the next budget to add to our budget 24/7 cameras for our sheriffs to use to stop speeders, red light runners, stop sign runners, and people making illegal turns. These cameras can also be used to count cars and having actual numbers for vehicle miles traveled. Using AI with these cameras will make Encinitas much safer. The word will get out, don't mess around in Encinitas. You will be caught. You will be prosecuted. The word slow the fast down will actually happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Natalie Satoon. I actually have a video.
May I have my time back, please, Kathy?
It hadn't started.
I'm not sure why there's no audio.
Do you want it from my phone?
I'm not sure. That's it.
It went through on the email.
Maybe we can switch or go to someone else and then come back to you.
Okay.
We go to Helen Bourne, followed by Dave Dean.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I would like to speak for a minute about the Santa Fe Drive remodel, the part that has just been finished, McKinnon. I would like to ask that you just wait before doing anything. I mean, it was just recently finished, and climate action really depends on each one of us. We've really got to change our ways in some ways. And I think it's too soon to do anything, so let's just wait and see what happens. And yes, there's always room for improvement, and I know about the parking, the back in or front in parking. It's dangerous, but I mean, oh well, I really feel it's too soon to do anything, so I ask you to please wait before spending any more money to change it. And the second thing I would like to speak about is about the housing development that's going to be across from the high school. And out of 51 homes, it seems that only 5 are being made available to very low income. I really feel it should be at least 11 or 12. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I agree with smaller homes. We do need smaller homes. But we also need some affordable homes. And I think that 5 is too few homes. Anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you. Dave?
We're going to go back to Natalie, and then it'll be followed by Dave Dean, Kelly McCormick, and then Ellen Burr.
Then the question's over to Tarquin. What are any suggestions that you have that can help us in our efforts here?
Thank you, Councilmember Schaefer. My office has been dedicated to even-handedly and fairly enforcing the misdemeanor provisions of the municipal code as arrested by or cited by the Sheriff's Department. My office is taking these cases to court. We are prosecuting these cases. That is a change from longstanding practice where the municipal code was not actually being enforced by the city attorney's office and enforced as misdemeanors. So that is how we are helping augment the Sheriff's Department efforts to enforce the law.
And when I looked through the 3 goals, they talked about treating the homelessness and the homeless and the people that are suffering from homeless, but in no place did I see the safety of the general public or the enforcement of laws. And so at a very high level, my goal tonight would be to recommend to the rest of my council members that we add a 4th goal. But I would add a 4th goal, and it would have to do with enforcing our laws, and the city should have the same right and duty to, in fact, we have a greater duty because we're charged with public safety.
Natalie Satoon, Cardiff. Of the 182 violations written this year, Tarquin and his staff have indeed prosecuted 7 out of the 182. That's 3.85%. The sole filing date is May 14, when this office filed 7, the 8th is not conformed. This info is current through June 6th. Tarquin states that his office is, quote, dedicated to even-handedly and fairly enforcing the misdemeanor provisions of the municipal code, unquote. My question is, fairly to whom? With Tarquin in the city's enforcement rate of 3.85%, it certainly doesn't seem fair to the public who have been subject to this behavioral abuse. I'm asking you, our council, for the long overdue necessary decision to support our sheriff, who is supporting us, and to uphold your duty of public safety to residents and business. Please do not be deceived by the city attorney that we pay for. Thank you.
Mayor Ehlers. Thank you. I will respond to Ms. Satoon's comments. The sheriff has issued approximately 182 citations over the past several years. The issue, though, here, the vast majority of these are infraction citations. What my office files is misdemeanors. My office does not prosecute infraction citations. Infractions are simply monetary fines. Those are handled primarily between the Sheriff's Department and filed with the Superior Court. My office doesn't appear on infraction trials. Infraction trials are court trials, not jury trials. So the sheriff is filing quite a few of these infraction citations. My office files those cases that are charged as misdemeanors. So it is not quite accurate to state that my office is failing to file 182 cases. My office is filing the misdemeanor charges that are brought to us by the Sheriff's Department if those misdemeanor charges meet the basic elements for filing, that they can be supported by beyond a reasonable doubt.
So this is oral comments, so we can't get into a back and forth, but you
Understood.
are providing an explanation. Can I refer this to staff? In other words, could we have a meeting with Natalie and you, city manager, and I'd like to be a part of it offline so that we could have a discussion without a quorum in there and get to the bottom of the facts and maybe elaborate on what you just said?
That is procedurally permissible.
Okay. I would like to do that. Okay. Dave?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, staff. Dave Dean from Dave's Rock Garden. I'm here this evening to encourage the members up there to be proactive and not reactive and have a forward-thinking thought. And by that, I mean, I'd like to address the CRC's request to expand their operation downtown Encinitas. My thought is that the city's primary goal is for safety of its citizens. And I think the expansion of the CRC downtown is a danger to the city from a safety point of view. I had a meeting with, a conversation with Police Chief Watts last week, and I had suggested that we put volunteer sheriff members on the streets to have an eye on things downtown Encinitas to help promote the safety. I was told that he would not allow that because it's too dangerous for them to be down there and do that. My thought is, if it's too dangerous for volunteer sheriffs to be downtown, how safe is it for your wives and your children to be downtown? So I'd like you to keep that in mind. And when I say proactive rather than reactive, what I would suggest council do is look at the zoning downtown and change the zoning to not allow the expansion of the CRC's plans to expand downtown. So if you change the zoning ahead of time, I think you'll be able to prevent something unfortunate happening down the road. I would not like to be able to see Mayor Ehlers stand up on a microphone if something bad were to happen and say, I should have changed the zoning. That's what I have to say, so safety first. Thank you.
Kelly will be followed by Ellen Bird, Teresa Beauchamp, and then Rachel Graves.
Hello, this is Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator with San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth. I recently returned from Sacramento, where I met with state lawmakers about tobacco policies that improve public health. I also had the opportunity to compliment Encinitas. The Encinitas City Council banned the sale of flavored tobacco before it became state law, with a recommendation for approval by the Encinitas Youth Commission. That type of positive action is needed now to protect apartment and condominium residents from toxic secondhand smoke and the harmful residue it leaves behind, known as third-hand smoke. Carlsbad recently adopted the first 100% smoke-free multi-unit housing ordinance in the county, and I urge Encinitas to do the same. To date, more than 100 cities in California have successfully done this. For children, exposure to secondhand smoke slows lung growth, leads to respiratory infections, ear infections, and more frequent and severe asthma attacks. They do not have a choice in the matter, but suffer the most harm. Tobacco remains the leading cause of death in the state, killing nearly 40,000 Californians each year, or about 110 people every single day. With no laws protecting the families living in multi-unit housing, they have very little power to fight against intrusive secondhand smoke. Moving is difficult and expensive, and they could face the same problems in a new place. A smoke-free multi-unit housing ordinance would increase the health and quality of life for these residents while bringing financial benefits for property owners, like less cleaning time, faster turnover between units, lower insurance rates, and reduced fire risk. It's a win-win. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Council. ADUs. The city has been pursuing and promoting a ADU development program for over 5 years now. ADU incentives started with the Pradu program, and then the waiving of all city fees for an ADU. And now there are many waivers of parking requirements, and setbacks have been changed, and lot coverage has been allowed to increase. So since '21, there have been 336 ADU certificate of occupancies issued. Of those, 78 are deemed low or very low restricted, but only 21 of those are deed restricted. So I'm not exactly sure how you came up with 57 non-deed restricted. The other thing that happens is that we have an inclusionary program for people who are adding X amount of space to their homes. And if they go over X amount, then they are supposed to provide an ADU, or they have an in lieu fee. So since 2022, there have been 60 options by people who may have been supposed to build an ADU. I really think it was probably 46, resulting in $241,000 being deposited in our ADU fund. So $241,000 is, if we had a improved lot with no other fees levied on it, might get one ADU. In the past, the fees have been used for, well, when Fox Point came hat in hand, for $400,000 to make their tax incentivized affordable housing work. They got $400,000 to make 40 units work, so that's $10,000 a piece, more or less. So with 240, we would get maybe 24 incentivized ADUs. I think my math is right. So I think this is something that maybe after the state closes business in Sacramento, and after the current year's survey has been done on ADUs in existence, that maybe this can be revisited on a much larger scale. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Ehlers, Deputy Mayor Lyons, and council members. Strong communities depend on dedicated volunteer leaders, and treating them with respect is crucial for strong relationships, retention, recruitment, and community input, a broad community input. It's essential to create an environment where city volunteers feel trusted and welcomed, regardless of their background. Council members have a responsibility to work respectfully alongside staff and volunteers to improve organizational processes. It is unacceptable to ambush volunteer commissioners, staff leaders, and colleagues with issues that could be resolved through advanced collaborative discussions. For example, a council member recently criticized the chairs of the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Urban Forestry Advisory Committee, UFAC, from the dais. This offensive behavior, stemming from a narrow perspective, yields no positive outcomes. It is political grandstanding. Leadership is about collaborative problem solving, not disruption. Effective problem solving requires hard work, a broad perspective, and gathering information from all who generously contribute their time and talent. At the May 21st council meeting, the Parks and Recreation Work Plan was pulled from the consent calendar because a council member feigned disappointment about the lack of publicity for surf, skate, and volleyball communities, despite the department's many classes and events related to these communities. This unjustified criticism led to a 2-hour discussion. Similarly, on May 14th, the same council member pulled the UFAC work plan and recommended its elimination without prior discussion with staff leadership, citing an alleged comment from a former member. Procedural issues could have been resolved through simple discussions with the city manager. Then, on June 11th, the same council member pulled a consent item calling for UFAC's suspension until it proved its worth and updated its processes. Mayor Ehlers confirmed with our city attorney this request was out of order. Encinitas need effective problem solvers who engage in efficient, hard work, deep study, respectful communication, and collaboration with staff, volunteers, and residents. New council members who haven't yet need to take the required code of ethics training to learn how to foster a safe environment for civic engagement. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I would recommend, Mayor Ehlers, that you explain to the public what consent items are and our rights to pull them and the council's rights to pull them. I personally appreciate the transparency. I appreciate listening to discussion, and I appreciate work plans of all commissions to be discussed in the public. I think they'll be pulled tonight also. What I came here to speak about, though, last night I had the pleasure of attending the Carlsbad City Council meeting with a few other residents of Encinitas. In many ways, I was pleased to see that Carlsbad was on the same page as Encinitas. They approved a budget that included 6 new police officers to their staff. They are redoing a street project near a school that is shown to be unsafe with 2 temporary roundabouts. They're pulling those out. And they also had an agenda item at the end that was a council-initiated item. In this respect, they differed from us quite a bit, actually. Recently, the council has declared that they are they favor local control and that they support local control, but their decision last night did not reflect that. They were asked to support our Neighborhood Voices ballot initiative, the same ballot initiative that this council supported a few months ago, and to my surprise, one of the comments from one person who opposed it was that she wasn't comfortable with the people who would be making the decision to, which coincidentally would be the people making the vote on the ballot. She trusts the state more than she trusts the people at the ballot box. And I want to thank you, those 4 of you who do say you support local control. I want to thank you for not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. The 5 up there talked the talk, and only 2 walked the walk last night. So I want to give accolades to you for that. Thank you.
That concludes oral communications.
Okay. See, item number 6 is report from closed session. We did not have a city council closed session. The closed session earlier tonight was for the San Diego Water Department, and that was reported out in our regular San Diego Water Department meeting. Next would be changes to the agenda. And we do have a change in the agenda on item number 10C as in Charlie. We are going to move it to the front of the agenda so we can do something procedural where we can open. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Councilmember O'Hara.
On 10C, my company, Race San Diego, participates with Parks and Rec Division here, department here in Encinitas, where we pull permits. And so I need to recuse myself from this item at this time.
Okay. So we'll let you do that. And then we'll handle this procedural item and then come back and stay nearby. I'll let him get it. Technically, he has to leave the room, so. There we go. So we will move 10C to the front of the agenda so that we can open the public hearing and then continue the item to date certain on June 25th at 6 p.m. The purpose of doing it date certain is to eliminate the need to renotice it. And at June 25th, which is next week, we will bifurcate the item into 2 items, one that Councilmember O'Hara can participate in and the other one that he is recused from. So with that, I think we go to item 10C right now, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so we will, and item 10C is a public hearing and consideration on the adoption of Parks and Recreation user fee adjustments based on the annual average consumer price index adjustments from 2024 for the San Diego region. And with that, I think all we're going to do is open it. No staff report tonight. We're just going to open it. Entertain a motion to continue at date certain to the 25th. So I'm going to open the item and I'll make
Motion to continue till June 25th.
Okay. Second. Okay, I got a motion and a second. And we're not going to take public hearing tonight. The public hearing is open, so it will be open when we get back here on the 25th. So. And with that, we will vote.
Motion does carry unanimously with Councilmember O'Hara absent.
Okay. And now we can go back to consent calendar when we get Councilmember O'Hara back in here. We got it? We're good? We'll actually let Jim get all the way to his seat. Okay, do we have any items pulled by the audience?
Yes, item 8G.
Okay. And any items pulled by council?
Motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, and we will call the question.
Just one moment, sorry. Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to item 8G.
Okay. Item 8G is the presentation of the Planning Commission Annual Report and Work Plan pursuant to the Encinitas Municipal Code Section 2.30.040C. And the contact person is Planning Manager Inez, but doesn't look like Katie over there, so I'll let Scott take it.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, as item is in regard to the annual Planning Commission report. The report tonight is provided by the chair. This is an opportune time for the council to provide feedback to the Planning Commission in regard to their annual report and their actions and their items that they are doing for the upcoming year, and then the chair can report on the year prior. One note that should be included is there's only modest changes from the previous annual report from last year to this year, and I believe the chair can go over the two small changes that are being proposed. But with that, I would like to hand the presentation over to Chair Dalton, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Steve Dalton, Chair of the Planning Commission. Briefly, I guess I'd like to just give a general outline of the work plan. This is mandated by the municipal code that we prepare a work plan. We have listed things in three broad categories, but there is no particular priority or order within each of those categories. So as an example, item A1, the current goals outdoor dining ordinance, is not necessarily the top priority of that category. It just happens, it fits in that bucket. So, the priority is no particular order. These items have been added to the list from multiple sources. Several of them are carryovers from past work plans. Several of them are added by, say, staff to reflect ongoing efforts for code updates and things like that. And some of them are added by our current commissioners or sitting commissioners. If we came across an item that was on the plan from years past and no current commissioner understood or knew what that item was meant to do, in often cases, we voted to remove that from the work plan. The only two items on this list that are new items that were not on the plan from last year are items 7 and 8 in the current goals, the Leucadia Northwest circulation and crossing, and the Cardiff Twin Home lot variance requests. The commissioners spent a lot of time preparing for these items, their role. There's an extensive amount of staff report, often 1,000 pages, and I'm sure you do the same for these hearings. The commissioners are not particularly trying to take on added work for their own workloads. So these items reflect, say, patterns that we see, particularly the Cardiff Twin Home lot variance. We see repeatedly requests for a variance to a setback, which is really a party wall, and there are twin homes all over Cardiff with this very condition, a zero setback. Not to get into too much detail tonight, sorry. So anyway, where we see patterns of things that continuously come before us, we consider them for the work plan as a way of trying to streamline the process down the road. that one falls into that category for sure. And then a broader category would just be the omnibus code cleanup. Very often we come across very similar, trying to make interpretations or decisions about certain items that maybe are unclear in the code. The other item that we did add was the Leucadia Northwest Corridor circulation and crossing. We recognize that a lot of current or recent development and density has been concentrated or located in Leucadia, and the idea is that maybe there is an opportunity to look specifically at circulation elements, pedestrian, sidewalks, or other elements that maybe would help alleviate some of the friction or the inconveniences caused by that development. I think it's important to note that none of these items have been deliberated and decided upon prior to their I mean, we're identifying topics for conversation, but we're not unilaterally jumping into writing code or anything like that. We would leave that to the experts. We are fully aware that the council is the body that sets the policy, and we're there to implement that policy and do our part to review projects that come before us. But we're not trying to generate projects per se or go beyond that kind of quasi-judicial and decision-making power that we are given. Okay, with that, I think I would leave it and open it up. The staff is here with me, and I'm happy to answer specific questions if there are on any of these items.
And I was just curious, who pulled the item? Oh, the public did. Okay, yes. So we must have public speakers. Did you have a question of clarification first?
No, I'll wait.
Okay, so we'll go with the public. How many public speakers?
We have 4 now.
4, okay.
So start, we have Natalie Satoon, Scott Campbell, Rachel Graves with time donation from Pete Albanese, and then Teresa Beauchamp.
I just have some images for goal number 1. Natalie Satoon. I object to goal number 1 being made permanent because of the reasons you saw in these images. I don't like the examples of the unsanitary conditions. They invite sleeping conditions. The restaurants fail to maintain sanitary conditions, and the city doesn't require them to be maintained. There's nothing we have a tree growing in one of these. Open drug use. It also doesn't allow for adequate downtown parking. I was on an e-scooter at one point. I couldn't go down there for 6 weeks because there was not adequate parking, nor was there adequate space on the sidewalk to be able to roll down the street. So we need to protect and advocate for all of our businesses, not just the ones who would like to have additional square footage. I'm sure that their customers and their clients would appreciate having a place to park. The non-restaurants have had their fair share of the city's graciousness during COVID. And if there is space or footage that provides for egress on the sidewalk, that should certainly be considered, but we're no longer in danger of COVID, and that necessitated the emergency order. So I hope that we can take goal number 1 off the table. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. It's interesting this is on the consent calendar. Let's just talk about a few things. And first off, apologize for the poor quality of the printout. Sometimes things happen. We have a couple requests here. I request that you move item B3, dark skies ordinance, up to the current goals. And I request that you move item B1, preservation of open space, to the current goals. And I'm requesting move A.4, increase in affordable housing, to the time as permits. As far as 8.4 goes, I've stood up here and I've shown the RENA numbers. We're very well. There's no real need. There's no crisis need for us as a city. We can talk about compassion and people and everything, but as far as the city's concerned, we are meeting the numbers. We're doing good. There's no need for this to be worked on. Preservation of open space, we've demonstrated that we just acquired open space, Surface Point. We've done L7. In fact, there's a nice item on the agenda next week about L7. So let's move this up. This is a priority for the entire city, more than just for builders or potential people. This is forever. It's not a, what's the word I had here? It's a small temporal footprint. Anyways, let's go on to the next slide. As far as dark skies, quite a few people are interested in this. And I want to give the Planning Commission a little head start. And these are things that they can look at. Other cities are doing this, but these are really quick items. We don't need to hire expensive consultants. Other cities have these. We can copy paste a lot of this stuff and talk about it and just get it done. I mean, a couple hours, really. It's not that hard. Let's go on to the next page. These are all cities that currently have dark sky ordinances. Encinitas prides itself on being progressive. I'd say we're lacking. We are not leading the pack on this, and we're falling behind, so let's get on top of this. Dark sky ordinance. All these cities here are doing it. There's no reason why we can't. Some of them have been doing it for over a decade. I think I have one more slide here. There's a lot of benefits to dark sky. It preserves a night sky. Everybody likes seeing the stars and the moon. I read in the newspaper comments that shows, I can't see it because there's too much light pollution. It helps people driving. There's less glare and reflection and things blinding you. It's safety. It protects wildlife. You don't have birds and owls doing weird things because they don't think it's dark. It conserves energy. You know, we all have LEDs. It's not that much, but it does. And it actually enhances outdoor enjoyment. Open up your eyes, let the light come in rather than just being blinded and only seeing a sharp point. And that's really all I have. Thank you. Let's go.
Hi, Rachel Graves. I will piggyback on Scott's comments about the as time permits goals. I feel like all three of those are kind of quick projects. And one of the very first decisions that this council made was to preserve L7 Quail Gardens Park. And so I think number B1 is probably one of your top priorities, and I would move that up to number 1. I would also possibly consider prioritizing these items. I don't think outdoor dining ordinance was one of your priorities for amending our general plan, but I would look at the council's work plan direction column and ask yourself, is that this council or is that previous council? Because the voters want this council directing the Planning Commission's work plan. I think the native plant ordinance is being worked on by multiple groups right now, native trees and plants, and this seems like it's kind of been in the works for like 5 years. So I don't know if it's actually, it says it's in process, but Chair Dalton said that these aren't in the works, but it shows that 4 of these things are in the works. So I guess I'm confused, and it seems a little vague here. So I just hope you guys prioritize the things that you want this commission to work on, not what an old commission or old council wanted. Thank you.
Well, I'm actually glad this was pulled because I haven't been able to go to the Planning Commission meetings on Thursdays because I've had a course conflict. And I just am here to say thank you to our amazing planning commissioners. I think that they do tremendous amount of work. They have to absorb so much technical information in a very short period of time. And they have a broad scope of what our city needs, and I believe have a great way of prioritizing the top needs of our city. Again, I support their work plan because I support them. I don't think they need micromanagement. And again, I'm just so grateful for all of them. Thank you.
That concludes public speakers.
Okay, with that, we'll go to Deputy Mayor Lyons.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Dalton, for being here to respond to some questions. One of my questions for Scott earlier was, what were they thinking, and how has the Planning Commission kind of evolved to this point? So I know you'll be able to give some insight into that. I'm going to make an overarching comment that I think might not only help the Planning Commission organize the work plan, but also help the public understand a little bit in more detail. So if we could go to page number 12 as an example, which is where you start listing your primary, it's with the blue charts, the work plan detail, current goals. When I read it, I'm just going to hop to native plants because I know that one better. When it's council work plan direction, and then there's a yes, that was approved by city council. And so I think by just answering yes with the further detail, it's expected that everyone would understand what that means. But it might be better if we consider in our work plan to actually make a statement about when it was approved, or a little more detail. So I'm going to jump to the explore a native plant landscape policy there, and under summary and comments. And sometimes I think, and this is an example where I think that isn't exactly what the Planning Commission is going to be doing in 25-26, because a decision's already been made to create an ordinance and a consultant's on board to do that. I don't know if you might have some insights how to be more specific about, well, what is this current status? And Scott and I were tossing around the idea of adding a column that says, this is our status right now, which would help everyone understand that work has already been done and this is our status. And then in 25-26, this is our work plan. So to me, that seems to be a bit more linear way of explaining it and helping everyone understand it a little bit better. And I could say the same type of thing about almost all the entries. So that's a big picture, maybe a little bit more structural. The content big picture comment that I have is about how much you're grasping under the Planning Commission's umbrella. I know you've got a lot here, and you have had a lot here. I'm just wondering what your bandwidth is. You've got a lot to do. You are making decisions. You're a decision-making body. It's a heavy lift. That's not even on here because that's what you're doing on a regular basis. So I want to manage expectations about what the Planning Commission's expected role is in these broad range of ideas. And if it's not something that the Planning Commission needs to be involved in 25-26, it would be okay to say, that's not our top priority this year. These will be the others. These will be our top priorities because they're more time sensitive. I just like that, and I think the public would like that, so that we can understand what the commission will be focused on, and measure then at the end of the year when you report back on what was done. And then I guess I'll do one more thing. If we could look at this in regards to, is the Planning Commission the right body for some of this? And when I look at the open space, it's a top priority for me, so I don't want to imply anything other than that. But when I look at the open space under as time permits goals as preserve open space. I wonder if the Parks and Rec Commission is the right place. What is it the Planning Commission would be doing associated with preserving open space? Is that really something that's under your oversight? And would you like to comment?
Sure, I would.
Yes.
Thank you. And I do think I maybe did not communicate clearly, particularly to one of the public comments. When I said nothing was being done, it meaning the commissioners themselves are not out writing orders. But I did not mean to imply that the staff is not preparing and doing these items. And so I guess there is a lot of confusion and it is uncertain. In a lot of ways, we're identifying areas, but we are really a reactive body, meaning until an ordinance is presented to us, there is nothing for us to adjudicate or make a decision about.
There you go, yeah.
And so some of these topics are just topic headings. They don't imply a decision or a position one way or the other. So regarding the outdoor dining, no one is saying that they favor it or they don't favor it. It's just been a discussion point, and we say maybe we should clarify this thing. Within our own commission, there may be disagreement. There has just been no deliberation other than to say this is a topic that seems to keep coming up and maybe we should talk about this. But ultimately, it comes down from the city council about what your priorities are. And if you want to move an item to the top of the list, the bottom, you're not putting us out. We are quite burdened already just trying to keep up and make the decisions of the things that are coming before us. So we're not trying to generate these things. And really, there is work being done, but it's being done by the staff and it's being done at the direction of the council and at the state and other bodies outside of the commission. In my tenure on the commission, I've been there 4 years. I think we've only initiated one item off, independently, and that was that two commissioners had time and interest to do it. But generally speaking, the commission is waiting for a project or an ordinance to come at them from either the council or from something else that's been prioritized by the staff.
Well, having heard your thoughts there, I think it's aligned with, there could be some things we could clarify in this document that would vet then what do you have time for in addition to the things that you're required to do?
Yeah, particularly regarding the preserve open space. I have really no mechanism for going out and buying land or identifying. I mean, that's just not what the commission is doing. So there are items, and that might be a really good example of one that, if you were to take that off our list and say, hey, maybe the Parks and Rec Department should be looking at this. Yeah, presumably something will eventually come to the Planning Commission for consideration if it's mandated by the ordinance, and we would look at it then.
All right, thank you. I'll yield.
Okay, so I'm up next, and the Planning Commission, of course, is land use, zoning, housing element type issues, and I completely agree. So I'm going to, no particular order, I'm just going through as I wrote my notes. So item A8, I actually support because a former planning chair, me, asked that we look into this, and this is just an efficiency request because what has happened over the last 15, 20 years is we have many of these requests come through in the R15 segment. We grant them every time. It has to go to a public hearing, and we can save a heck of a lot of processing time in Planning Commission and in staff if we just codify that variance. And so I think it just makes it easier. So I support A8. I think it's straightforward, and it's ultimately a time saver. B3, which is dark skies, I support it. I have found in my time on the Planning Commission that there is general support, and I would love to hear, by the way, Planning Commission, I look forward to any recommendations you do have. I do think you should have some of that autonomy and the ability to make recommendations to us on items within that land use, zoning, housing element purview, and that is your purview, and you are the experts, and so I think if you think that if we'd be well served. Now, where we'll draw the line is the policy. We're the policy body. You're the implementation, but I see a gray area in between where, hey, if we had this policy in place, City Council, we could work better together. So in the case of dark skies, and we do have dark skies a policy, but it's just a prohibition against recreational outdoor lighting in a Liebenhain. That already exists. This, I think, goes a step further. I think Scott nailed it with where it could go and where it's been happening elsewhere. And whether it's in the highlands of Old Encinitas or lots of Leucadia, I always run into people saying, hey, I really like the dark skies. We need to have dark skies. If you talk to Sheila Cameron, she would tell you that it's in our general plan. I haven't been able to find it, but she can point it out. So I support moving that up to being considered, but have it as a current work item. Preserving open space, I think you hit it on the previous discussion. You don't have the mechanism. But if you do look at our objectives, and I'm trying to pull everything back to our written city objectives, there is an item, and let me see if I can find it in the 2 seconds. Where was the maintain open space? Acquisition of open space, item 4.1. E is pursue grant opportunities for open space acquisition. So I don't know if that's quite in your purview. I would be okay with not necessarily, but I'm okay if you guys have ideas on how you can better protect open space as a part of the planning land use process, and you want to spend a little time telling us what maybe code changes we could do. But I think in the bigger picture of finding money, identifying open space opportunities, that's us. Moving on to the CPP, this is right in your bailiwick. If there's an improvement to the timing and code recommendations, it's almost code cleanup, and I would support that and move that up to current item. Native plants is another one that is directly listed as an item in here, and it's not 5 years because I've only been up here 2.5, and it started just barely before I got here. So maybe it's been 3 years happening. Or it was a concept early on, Rachel. So, but that is one of our council defined goals. So you're going to have whatever review of any ordinance that comes through from a land use process. So that I would leave alone and leave there. The affordable housing, it's one of our objectives here, but I'm not quite sure what you can do other than, again, make recommendations. And the Planning Commission did make a recommendation back when I was chair to increase the inclusionary percentage up to 50%, or at least make it higher. Our outside counsel said it's fairly common to have that higher inclusionary rate on affordable housing overlay zones. And so, if that's the type of recommendation, I think that's within your purview. But as far as setting policy for where we put it, how we do it, that's not yours. So I want to make sure that whatever that item is, it's not a city council item in disguise. So I want to keep it to your purview. So I would support lowering that to as time available. A7, which is the Leucadia Northwest Circulation Crossing, that's Traffic Commission. Plain and simple, that and us. So I would X that one out completely. And outdoor dining, have there been any planning commission approvals of outdoor dining in the last year? Yeah, so I would X that one out completely. I think that's a policy issue that's strictly up here, that we may give it to you later this year with some certain guidelines, but in the meantime. So those are my recommendations. I'm pretty close. I think, Scott, you hit moving the 3 up, I think you said, and then I would X out A1 and A7. So that's mine. I'll yield to Councilmember O'Hara.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you breaking that down. Lots of places to go here. So quickly, just to start off with the city attorney or to planning, was there that confirmation I requested regarding item number 5 on this?
Which confirmation are you referring to?
Clarification was requested onto our current level of compliance, our current requirement of compliance on both of these, and I've not received that information from planning or from that. This was on my briefing yesterday. I was asked to receive it by this meeting.
I would defer to planning on that.
Sorry, Councilmember O'Hara, could you ask that question one more time?
Yeah, I had asked in our briefing to receive information on our requirement of compliance and our level of compliance to AB 211 and SB 6.
Sure, no problem. We are able to provide that.
Okay.
My planning manager, Patty, will provide some of that background.
Good evening. So we are, staff is received funding from, ironically, HCD to help us position ourselves to do objective design standards and create an ordinance. So we are in compliance in that we are, like every agency, required to implement it. We are being proactive and trying to get some local control by doing a ordinance that helps us understand it. It's extremely convoluted and complicated. And so by doing these objective design standards for 2 of our specific plans, we are trying to kind of position ourselves to be, like I said, proactive and be able to control better, result in better design.
Okay. For those out there that don't know what AB 211 is, AB 211 is a by right building with ministerial approval, no discretionary hearings, limited public input for multifamily housing on commercially zoned land. In other words, it is encouraging anyone who owns commercially zoned land to double up and add housing on top of it and increase density without your input. SB 6 also lets developers build housing on commercial zone land without rezoning, but does not require affordability. Still requires skilled labor wages and is subject to CEQA. The first one, by the way, was not subject to, is exempt from CEQA. So this does not require affordability again with SB 6. These are some really dangerous, as far as local control goes. They're as easy to mishandle as they are to handle. And I would like to amend what's written on here. And I think it's really, really important. One of the things we've stated time and time again is that we are up here looking to put up our buffers as best as possible to manage the devastating effects of the state mandate. I don't find item 5, I'd like to send it back to the Planning Commission to rewrite it with the understanding that we are looking to protect ourselves as much as possible and limit the impact of these 2 bills. Put ourselves in a good place to be compliant, do all that we need to do, but make sure the wording is very clear on that, because I don't want anyone to be misunderstood in this. I want this to be as clear as possible. And I think for our city, this has been such a devastating impact of the state mandate that I can't understate or overstate rather the importance of making that adjustment. Along those lines, one of the things I find challenging in reading this work program is that it doesn't, and maybe this is somewhere else, it's not provided here or to the public, it's missing goals of each item and who will inform these items and guide them. And I think that's important, right? Because we want to make sure that we are in line with our resources matching the goals, these 7 goals that are on here, these 7 policies, or 6 policies rather, of our focus areas that are on here. So I think it would be really important to make sure that the goals of each of these items matches the goals of what the city is trying to do. So I'd like to kind of send it back in that regard to get that information, or ask at whatever we send back to have that included in whatever gets finalized. Item number 1, I agree with the mayor wholeheartedly. it would be something, if we brought it back up here, it would be a really well discussed back and forth issue. I do believe the way this is written is not neutral. I understand that's because that's how it was given to be fair, that was how it was given to the Planning Commission. But I would rather table it for now, no pun intended. One of the things I think is missing on here, and I alluded to it just a moment ago, we've expressed strengthening our general plan to manage and create buffers that protect our city against the negative effects of our residents' quality of life. I feel like this is the commission that should be diving into these issues to do that, in some semblance of helping us direct and divide that. It's a big task. It could actually be its own plan for them, really. But yeah, so I would like to see that added to this. I appreciate the explanation on number 8 from the mayor. I actually think that it changed my mind on what I was thinking. It wasn't clear to me, again, meaning that goal and explanation. I agree with number 7, should be sent to the MTCS, the Traffic Safety Commission. I do, however, disagree with my council members that item number 1, as time permits goals. I think we've tasked them on here previously with this, AB 211 and SB 6. They're looking at the maps. That's what they were tasked to do in that state, right? It says consultant develop a site selection tool. It tells me that they're looking at zoning, they're looking at the maps, looking at what spaces are occupied, what buildings are on them, what spaces are empty. I actually think they are 100% able to identify open space. Whether they can preserve it, no, I think you're right, that is for another thing. But I think this should be identify open space. I think it should be almost number 1. It actually is, to your point, item number 4 on our 6 priorities. So I highly recommend that gets moved up into that top priority space. And I would love to see a better definition on citizen participation program. Make modifications to require the timing when the CPP meeting shall occur. One of the things we've worked hard as a council to do is engage the people and get them involved. I want to make sure that what they're doing maximizes that opportunity for the people to be involved. I don't want to risk minimizing it. So I think it should be up in the top, and I think it should be really clear what we're looking to do. Review dark skies ordinance. I'm going to push that forward next year no matter what. I think the mayor's on board with me. So I am happy with as time permits goals, but I can tell you, I can tell the public, I'm happy to tell the public we are going to support that. I hope the rest of the council will. I know I've talked about it, the mayor's talked about it. I guess we're brown neck buddies on that now. But we'd really like to see that go forward. And I think that's also a copy and paste. So I don't think it needs to be prioritized beyond as time permits. I'm going to yield the floor for the moment. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to, when you said number 1, I think you were talking about B1, preserve
yes,
open
B1.
space.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
And so you were saying raise that up to the top level and and mostly about identifying
the locations. As I said, they're the ones who are, head deep into the maps, right? They're looking at all the zoning. They're looking at what's on each plot of land, how big it is, all those numbers. This is right in their wheelhouse. And it aligns with something they said they were going to do anyway, or they were tasked to do anyways, rather with, and I know this was a task that's ongoing, to develop a site selection tool. So to me, that's one and the same.
I just want to be careful that they don't cross over into the policy decision-making or the budgetary, because obviously acquiring land is all about money.
Well, and that's why I changed it to identify.
Okay.
And then we can, as a council.
Maybe identify opportunities.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Is it something they're doing all in, or is it something that as they come across? Because they're doing all this other work, and if they just happen to come across type thing.
I would assume it's both. It's its project to itself, and it's also, obviously, if you come across a space that fits this description and it fits the need, you'd identify it. And you might identify it as multiple things, potentially open space as well as. So I think it's kind of always there.
So I want to hit the CPP real quick, and I may ask Chair Dalton to comment here too. But when I read that, based on my experience with CPP, it's pretty minor, but it's not in the code defined exactly when the CPP application has to go in, and I think what this item is clarifying that again. But Chair Dalton, if you'd like to comment.
You're correct, and thank you. We find that a lot of our projects come to us and they've been in review for 2 years, 3 years before they actually get to our commission. And they had a CPP hearing day one, and the project has been modified and changed, and 3 years later, we're reviewing it, and the CPP is 3 years old. And I think the intent here was to clarify the timing of the CPP, that it should be reflective of the project that's kind of ultimately coming in front of the planning commission.
Yeah. And I think when the CPP program started, we were more stringent about getting them in at a very timely fashion, even before the application was submitted in the first review, and it worked very well back then. Now, it was maybe a little harder on the developers. The second thing I would add to this item is if we could look at thresholds, substantive changes to the original CPP, so we could determine thresholds. And this would all be kind of along the same lines as the variance changes. This is not a policy change. This is tweaking the ordinance code, recommendations from the Planning Commission to the council to tweak the ordinance code to get the timing of the trigger point, and then I would add to it the threshold of any changes. So you gave the example of 3 years. A lot of projects morph in 3 years, and there should be some quantitative mechanism to say, hey, you just triggered you went from 200 bedrooms to 200 units to 280. That triggers a new CPP and have some threshold, 5%, 10% change, that kind of thing. So I would look for staff and commission.
That's kind of the direction that we've been thinking.
Okay, and I support that, and I support raising it, as I said. I wanted to clarify on the code cleanup, which is a standard thing that happens every year at Planning Commission, or it has almost every year. One that keeps coming before us, 2 or 3 before you, and then ultimately before us on appeal, was the sloped lots with the peak. Yeah. I would love to have that looked at and have that considered in code cleanup. And I'm sure there are many other small things that the staff themselves will bring to the Planning Commission, and that's just a normal.
That one's included on the back page.
Okay, good. Oh, it is. Philip, well, I want to say the Pica residence was an example of that. There have been several, the next door neighbor to the Pica residence, but about 10 years ago, and then the Philip, and I'm going to butcher his last name, Koekemoer. He had an incident where he can't go up the necessary height because of the way the land is formed. And it clearly, it's something that should be cleaned up by the technical people that know it.
I'm on a turn, sorry.
I'm just trying to get that, make sure we're in there. And then I heard something during the discussion of AB 2011 SB 6. I wasn't quite sure. And Patty, it may have been you saying something about you're looking at the objective design standards on 2 of our specific plans. Why only 2, and why not the general code? Did I hear that correctly?
You did. So there's a nuance in the law that we cannot, if we apply objective design standards, it cannot be only to AB 2011 and SB 6 projects. So it has to be a geographic area. And so we did get legal concurrence that if we apply them to the 2 specific plans, which have the highest rate of sites that would be eligible for the bills, that we could then apply the objective design standards.
Why? Which 2, first of all?
Downtown Encinitas and North Highway 101. And it's a good thing to have anyway, because currently there are no standards in those codes that would regulate anything over 3 stories. So it's a very preemptive approach. And the beauty is, like I said, HCD is paying for us to do it.
Why wouldn't we also do El Camino Real?
Because that was just adopted, and we included objective design standards for structures over 3 feet.
Home Depot? and Encinitas Ranch? Why would we exclude other geographic areas?
Well, we only had funding, limited amount of funding. So we targeted the areas that have the highest concentration of eligible sites.
Okay, and then ultimately, okay, ultimately I want to apply it to the entire city. So.
Well, with the ones that don't have that, we would apply our citywide objective design standards, but these were tailored specifically to capture some of these more intense projects. And yeah.
Okay, but going forward to Councilmember O'Hara's point, we want to maximize the protection for the entire city, right? And so this appears to be one of those work items that came out of a grant that went, will go in front of the Planning Commission, then backed up. And to me, it's borderline setting a policy that's not the policy we're setting. We want to set a policy that it's the entire city. So going forward, we may want to consider funding the rest of the way to get the maximum protection for the entire city and see what that would cost to expand this.
We do have a joint meeting coming up because it's part of the grant effort is also to interpret the bills because they are extremely lengthy and complicated and based on if this, then that, and it's really, really complicated. So part of it is to interpret it and create a process so that we are clear how it would affect Encinitas, and we are able to also add some development standards that can help us to better control the development. We are limited what we can do, but we're trying to take advantage and be preemptive and control what we can given the criteria of the bills.
Understood. Okay. I will yield to Deputy Mayor Lyons.
All right, thank you. And I just would, since we're on current work item number 5, Assembly Bill 2011 and Senate Bill 6, I just want to maybe restate something that I think you've said, but we are putting together these objective standards so that we better protect ourselves. And I know the mayor said it that way, but we do have the state mandates. But what this action that we're taking is doing is putting together the objective standards, which then protect us better and protect our local community. So this is the latitude we have, and we're exerting it. So in that regard, we're doing a very good job to help preserve and protect our local character and community. It's not ideal, but given the constraints of these bills, this is our response. And then we have other things that we're doing. And I just want to go on the record of saying, after hearing my colleagues speak, that I am in support of the current objectives. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7, and the very last one. And thanks for the explanation on the very last one there. I understand it better now. So I just want to be on the record of saying I support all of those. So thank you for having those. I still would like more detail, like I already stated. When it comes to as time permits, I would like to offer the observation from preservation of open space. I know the Planning Commission is really skilled at looking at land use and understanding parcels, but I come at this from a natural resource perspective, understanding the value of a piece of property for natural resources and open space is a unique expertise that our people on the Planning Commission may have that the Planning Commission doesn't have, and I know it always varies depending on the individuals. But if you want to keep this on your work plan, I would only recommend that we keep that in mind as far as identifying parcels, that the right parcels to acquire and preserve are also based on those that have the best value as far as our natural resources and our community objectives for preservation of open space. And I do also support item 2 and item 3 there. And I do like the idea, and I'll go on the record of saying that I think the dark skies is a great idea. So I appreciate that being on there. So you've got a lot here, and I just want to say one more time, I want to manage expectations. If you've got 20 things on your work plan, and you're already telling me you only did had the bandwidth to address one last year. I just want us to all know what we're saying. I don't mind you having a full docket. You guys are doing great work. It's amazing for a volunteer commission. Do you have any other comments about that bandwidth then, Steve, and how to look at that as we move forward to manage expectations?
Well, I appreciate the comments, and I would say there is a lot of confusion around the work plan because in a lot of ways our agenda is not set by ourselves, right? Whoever submits a project, it is scheduled for a hearing at some pace. And so the work plan, while it's presented as if the Planning Commission has written it by themselves and developed it, it's really been written in a combination of multiple things, right? The staff has a grant, they're going to work on this thing, it's going to come to us eventually, it goes on this work plan. So there are certainly things, and you've identified several, the conversation has been spot on here tonight. There are some things that we use specifically to approve or disapprove a project, and say the dark skies is an example. When we see a project and we say, hey, there's no tool for us to deny this project based on lighting, maybe we should talk, that one is specifically kind of being generated by commissioners wanting to have that tool. As it relates to open space, there's really we're not geologists, we're not, arborists, and we don't really get to review projects as far as, we see private open space, but not so much public open space on ours. So it's very tenuous. I think the real value of having it there is that it just kind of subtly reminds us that that's a priority within the city, and that if an opportunity arises, great, but there's no active measure that we have currently to go get open space and put it into the list. So for sure, it should be on somebody else's work plan as well.
Thank you.
Well done. Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just to kind of put my 2 cents on this, is I think that where able, and obviously it's not your job for a lot of the stuff that gets set, because you're kind of holding the requirement to what's already been put forth in policy, and then you're reviewing it for basically as a filter to make sure that if it does get appealed up to us or whatnot. I do think it's for, a lot of it's for staff as far as priority. And so what I would say is stuff like Scott pointed out, where there are dark sky ordinances in other areas that we could kind of cut and paste, speed up our process to get ourselves, like Councilmember O'Hara was saying, with item number 5 on the current projects, the Assembly Bill 211 and Senate Bill 6, stuff where we can protect ourselves and get ourselves and push back against that. It's absolutely what 3 of us ran on in our previous election, and it should speak its volumes on not just that we won, but by how much, and that's what the city wants, as in the residents. And so, as commissioners, you live in town. It shows your address or your locations here. Not all of the staff lives in town. And so what it is you're actually valuing and you're putting against and making sure that when we prioritize something, or hey, could we get a dark sky ordinance in Leucadia, because we by and large have one, or we live to one, but don't have the ordinance. So it would be beneficial for that to get done sooner rather than later, because it provides protection in the housing requirements and all those things that come along. Does this make sense? So it's a way to combination the staff that may not live in town and yourself that is driving the decisions, or if you will, votes.
Yeah. A good input, and again, I don't write the ordinances. I don't even copy and paste them from other cities, right? Yeah. But someone could do that. We have identified that specifically as a tool that we'd like to have in our toolbox. And I think it's perfectly appropriate if the council would like to move that up in the priority list. The commissioners have limited time outside of what they already volunteer to do to take on additional work. The staff has a budget to work to, and so they can be overworked as well, I'm sure.
Of course.
So, prioritize it and move it up if that's the desire, and that would work for us. I guess I'm not disagreeing.
It's not really for, it's more of it's just a combination of all of these things in order. So there's things that are here, and again, staff has limited time, and everybody does. So all I'm saying is it's task management, it's work to task management, and if we are going to get a dark skies, that's something I think that would help, one, our city, but two, it would give us some more strength in some of our defense against some of the state, what I call state overreach into our zoning.
Yeah.
And so,
I think we're agreeing. I mean, we put it on our list as something that we think we should have an ordinance for.
yeah, and I get that. And so what I'm saying is, it's some of these things, and what I'm saying is now to staff is, let's put a date on there, and whether we get to it or not, or let's ask a question. When do we think we could get something that's reviewable by whatever date? And I'm not saying that to you right now. I'm just saying, in general, that's just one example. Hey, could we get a snapshot at something by September 15th? And that's a, hey, when you have time, or, AI, I don't want to pretend to know how staff gets their stuff done. That's why they get paid way more than any of us up here probably combined. So what I'm trying to say is, that's the idea is when we get that back, then we can review it starting September 15th. Then it can come to us, and then we can get something done maybe by April 1st of next year. No fools intended, But the understanding is, once we start putting those in order, it's there's too many things here. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And again, increase affordable housing, I just think that thing it's just not for you. It's not your job to increase affordable housing. The state's actually doing it for you. It's not, I don't think that should even be anywhere on this list, because we're required to do it. We mandated it. We have 15 locations that are set for it. It should just be nixed, and we're looking for it. And I would like to race ahead of the state and do it our way, and not make them have to tell us how to do it. But the outdoor dining, I think that's something that you should probably take off your plate and push back up to us, and make sure that the city, if they want to come talk about it, if the restaurant owners want to come talk about it, and Raul wants to come talk about it, and the citizens want to come talk about it, put it back up to us. So get stuff off your plate and start to become more precise in exactly what it is you can do. You just made mention, you guys, 1,100 pages a week or whatever it is you're reading. Native plant, we have a UFAC. Why is that not UFAC oriented? We just talked about that. So take stuff off your plate and let's get really good at something, so less is better, or do less better. And that I think would actually make your job easier. I think it would make our job easier, and then everybody can stay in their lane, and we get the city going and pointing in the right direction at a lot faster capacity. So it's nothing against you. It's just, I think you're doing a great job. I think it's, don't try to do it all, and the things that you just cannot handle, like Deputy Mayor Lyons said, 7, it's mobility. It shouldn't even be on your plate. Mayor pointed out why 8 should be there. So again, those are kind of my things here. So we could probably shorten this list and take stuff that we can actually get done, and we can have a time that, per the staff's ability, by September 15th, we can have a dark sky ordinance for us to review. Not necessarily for council, but right now, but for you guys to review and make sure it fits into all the zoning ordinances. And then it doesn't even have to be something you guys even bring to a planning commission. It could just be directed directly to us, and we can take care of it. And then it'd be off your plate, and it's not going to be here for 2 more years and never really get to. So that's what I'd prefer to see in getting things moved along on your guys' work plan. So thank you.
Councilmember O'Hara.
Okay, so just touching back on something that the mayor commented on, and the commission is looking at height limits, including review of average lot slope criteria. I know that one of the challenges with that is that the challenges we faced with the the zoning and the way it's set up, or the ordinance way it's set up, is that it triggers Prop A. I am put an asterisk next to it, whatever you want to do. We need to be so careful of anything that could possibly mess with Prop A. It's one of the few things we have out there that holds the city and the state accountable, and gives any opportunity back to the residents. So when that does come back to you, and I hope we do look at it, let's be darn sure that we don't negatively affect our ability to enforce Prop A. And I'm just putting a word of caution out there. I'm going to circle back to number 6. I think it hasn't been talked about enough. Number 6 is resource management plan update. Update our general plan. To me, that is what we talked about in the discussion about number 5, and I almost think that that should be it. Like omnibus code, 5 folds into number 6, and it's literally how do we protect ourselves and put as many buffers up to the state that have us stay within the line of our general plan, so that when we do things, and you've seen it, Chairman Dalton, where the traffic commissioner did the study, and our studies come to us in level of service, yet the state uses vehicle miles traveled. So everything that comes in front of you, you can't even look at the traffic study. Why don't we require both, right? Like, those are things we can do, and I think this is the commission that should really be diving into these things and looking at, hey, where are we getting burned every time something comes in front of us? How can we fix this to put up those buffers so we have a leg to stand on? You're the ones who see it firsthand. You see before it comes to us.
Just to be clear, we look at both level of service and VMT.
But you can't enforce it, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Right? That's what happened to Quill Meadows. Quill Meadows, Abe sat there and he said, I can't look at vehicle miles traveled. The city doesn't make me. And we had levels of service, and the state looks at a vehicle miles traveled, and we lost. Right? You lost in the planning commission, and we lost here.
Did you want me to comment on that?
I don't need to comment. I lived it. It's very clear. Resource management, I truly believe beating the state mandate, local control is one of the most important things that we have as a duty. And this commission is right at the forefront of it. And so I think we've understated item 6. Like I said again, I think that number 3 with number 5, folder number 6 could be the entire work program. And everything else would be nice to have, would be nice to add on. I do agree with number 8. I think that's great, and I think that's a really quick update. But I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at what we're trying to accomplish, what other cities are trying to accomplish, what the people are asking us to do, and that's it. Like that's why I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
That's why he's sitting here. That's why you're sitting here. It's why other people aren't sitting here. I obviously feel very strongly about this. Mm-hmm. And but I'm going to lay it out. That's what I look at. And if you want to comment on it, please do. I'd love to have people's input on it.
Yield?
I yield, yes.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Just trying to.
Go ahead.
Resource management, just to clarify, is the natural resources, right? The resource element. Describe what's in the resource element. And we have to update it every 10 years, so that's
Right.
what this is about. But what is incorporated in the resource element?
So the resource management element itself is our open space and recreation. We have them combined. And the update is only a very focused update to comply with 2 bills that we have to comply with by January of next year.
Okay, so, and it's not land use, it's not housing. We updated those already, and we have a current one. So I'm going to try and move us along, since we're still in the consent calendar. I'm going to try making a motion here. First point would be to strike A1 and A7, take them off completely, so lighten the load. I think that's a reoccurring theme. And I'm just going to do it in shorthand so we don't have to... Yeah, and then raise B1, B2, and B3 to current goals, because they aren't big, heavy lifts, and I think we've taken significant stuff off. Right now, I've got lower A4 to long-term goals, because truly it is a long-term goal, whether we strike it completely, as Councilmember Schaefer said, or whether we lower it to the long-term goals. I'm either way is fine by me. I would make sure we explicitly add the sloped lot code update to A3, the omnibus code update. And then I think another general theme I heard that I really liked was prioritize these. I want the commission to prioritize them using the citywide objectives, the city city goals and objectives that we adopted earlier this year to help inform that prioritization, and add, I'll call it SMART goals. I think Councilmember Schaefer in particular, you want a timeline, like a month, year that you expect the action and what that action would be, and who will lead them is another theme I heard there, and then tie it to our objectives. So that's my motion, if anybody's interested in discussing or seconding. And I'll yield, Deputy Mayor Lyons.
Yes, so since you've made a motion now, I'll ask a few questions. Not to pile on, I was not intending to speak again, but I've heard a lot of things that have been conflated that I think are wrong. So please clarify for me. When you say strike A1, which is outdoor dining ordinance, what do you mean by that?
I mean that if we want to change some policy with the dining ordinance, we'll initiate it on our part, which we didn't discuss it during our objectives. So right now, I'm not anticipating a need to change anything.
I always thought this was on the list because the ordinance will come before the Planning Commission, period. Is that correct? The Planning Commission wasn't going to enact any policy.
No. I understand. There's a footnote. Footnote 1, I guess, says it's currently underway, but we did not initiate that. We're not writing a code or.
So it will come before you whether it's on the list or not, because
Correct.
that's our policy. You are not weighing in any way in advance of that. You are the review body for it, period. So.
And I think I'm saying, why do we need an ordinance at all? We're doing it today.
So that's what I'm getting to. We have decided we needed an ordinance, and if we're going to question whether we need an ordinance or not, then this is not the venue for it, because we're on track for writing an ordinance, because the state law expires in 2026, and so we made that decision.
Okay.
So I'm not in favor of striking it, if that's what you mean.
I mean, it's going to come before them. They don't have an item for every one of their other cases that come in front of them, and I don't think we need an explicit one for this. It'll come to them based on our input, and I want the council, city council, to be the driver of that outdoor ordinance, not the Planning Commission.
And I agree with that statement. So thank you for that clarification. When we talk about item A4 under current goals, which is increase affordable housing, I really do feel this has gotten conflated in that when the Planning Commission is looking for tools and ideas, Ellen, I want to call you out on this. You were right here, right? I mean, this is what you were talking about. How about subsidies for ADUs or something like that? This is the kind of thing that your group is coming up with. A lot of people.
It's a pretty broad category. I'm sorry to speak out of turn, but
Pretty broad.
you could narrow it any way you'd like, but that would fall in that.
A lot of people have come before us without even seeing this here on your work plan, but have come before us just in general because they would like us to look at what other tools, what other things can help us with the affordability of housing in our community. And I would like our Planning Commission to continue to help serve the community in that way, to vet some ideas. Doesn't mean you have authority over these ideas. They'll still come to us, and it'll be vetted broadly across the community. So I would like to still have that on your work plan. I'll yield.
Councilmember O'Hara.
I would echo the sentiments of Councilmember Schaefer on item number 4 that was just mentioned, and I would put it to the as available. I think we've got some big pieces on here, and in fact, I would still circle back to say that the larger item of the general plan, not just the resource management plan, is missing from here. And it is actually what we need, and this is the commission to do it. So I don't know if there's an amendment that I could add to your motion. If you were looking for a second, my amendment would be to move item 4 to the as time available. I think that's what you put on there, but
I said
recall that.
longer
Okay.
term. I want one
And then
layer below that.
and then
But I'm open to either one, whichever. Even
Yeah,
further.
okay, even that's fine.
Because that's really what it is. It's a housing element 8-year cycle type thing. So it really is truly a longer.
Correct, and we've got time to figure that out. And hopefully elections that will make differences in the needs of that. So that requirement could change altogether anyway. So I agree with that wholeheartedly, but my amendment would be I'd like to see, as other council members have, every council member has, a better parcel out of the goals of each of these, and then I would like to see an item on here that addresses identifying areas of our general plan that can be updated. In fact, I believe that should be number 1.
And I would concur with that. I think I liked the motion. I did like what Councilmember O'Hara was saying, even though what was it? 3 was not exactly what from the resources model. I think the general plan is something that we haven't gotten back to as a line of defense in our ability to be more objectively capable in the projects that come across us, such as Quail Meadow, all of them, really, to be able to have a little bit more defense against the big state telling us affordable housing versus, I do agree with Councilmember or Deputy Mayor Lyons about it would be nice if we were the ones to figure out where to put affordable housing or ADUs or of whatnot. And I think that the burn's been enough at this point where people realize that the state is serious, but I like to push back on the state and get the city of Encinitas to do it right and not be required by outside forces, meaning the state. So the general plan is our way of doing that.
Yep.
And what Councilmember O'Hara is saying is this is the commission to hopefully help outline, because they're so deep into it in the zoning side, which again, you have the background.
So if I can capture that
Yes,
into, what I would recommend is making it a 9th objective, A9, and it would be add a general plan review and recommendations for additional objective requirements to protect our community.
Correct. And so that'd probably be.
And I don't think it fits in the A3 omnibus, because omnibus tends to be smaller, little nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And the resource management is very surgical in that it's going after, 1-2 laws that update the resource management. So this is a broader, and what level of priority as time permits, or?
What we're saying is we think it should be A1. With obviously there's work to get done, and obviously it's not going to come to us, but it's going to be staff and not Commissioner Dalton and the Planning Commission that's going to get to it. But hopefully we have something to review for a general plan update that puts in the protections. November 1st, I don't know,
And to be clear, this would be recommendations to us on what would help them, give them more tools, and it's not necessarily changing the general plan, because we would have to then go and do that. So, okay.
It's just a highlight, and it's basically, it's getting the commission to be able to work with, they're obviously already working with the development services.
Any questions first from the chair and then second from staff on that added objective?
No questions.
Staff, any questions?
No questions.
Okay,
Permission
cool.
to speak out of turn. I almost think it could be a review of where have we been burned and bringing those to the forefront. Just a case study of what we've been through, where we've lost, why we lost, and what we could have done to win in those situations.
Yep. So, okay, I've got guess who's up? Councilmember O'Hara. So I accept. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay.
I suspect that that review of the general plan might reveal that what we can do to protect ourselves is investigate affordable housing options. Just saying.
It might come up in it, and that'd be great, and then it'll come back to us, but I don't think increasing, this year it just says straight increasing affordable housing, which that might be something that comes up within it, but until we review it, we would never really know exactly if that's what we do need to do.
Well, and to that point, Quail Meadows increases affordable housing, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Crushing our community character, killing the environment, leaving us stuck in traffic. It's not It is.
I want to be careful that we're talking about objectives
No, I
tonight
get it,
and not
but I'm
arguing
but I'm going
substantive
into
issues.
I know,
and
my council
was not
member
noticed
is
for
shaking
that.
her head as if I'm talking crazy.
Yeah, and so let's keep it at the work
So,
plan level, folks.
I am. I'll move forward. But yeah, I think I agree with Councilmember Schaefer on that one.
Okay, I have nobody else. I think I have a motion in a second.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a stab at this.
Yep.
So there's a couple I'm not clear on. So, motion by Ehlers, second by Schaefer, to approve the 2025-26 Planning Commission Work Plan as amended. First one is to remove items or goals A1 and A7.
Yep,
B1, B2, B3, move to the current goals.
yep,
A4, move to long-term goals.
yep,
A3, include slope lots.
yep.
The next one was to prioritize the goals with city goals and objectives, include who will lead, and include SMART goals.
Yeah, which include timelines,
Who will lead? Timelines.
a goal timeline.
Okay, so we'll have prioritize who will lead, timelines, and include SMART goals. And then the next was add A9 objective, which is to add general plan review and identify objectives, requirements to protect. I didn't get the last part, and that was for city council review.
To protect our city character, I guess, is the best way. And I would say review and make recommendations for additional objective requirements. And it's A9, so therefore it's current goals.
Yes.
Yeah, that accurately captured it.
And Mayor, may I take the privileges of explaining my vote before my vote?
Sure.
I just want to say that there's a lot there that I do agree with, but because we are demoting our efforts in affordable housing to a long range, I think we do that at our own peril. The affordable housing that we need, and we need to address as soon as possible, is other affordable housing other than the state mandate. And I know I will not be successful with this current city council majority on that item, but I need to say it.
Yeah, and I'll explain that my reasoning is that we're talking about the objectives, the goals for the Planning Commission, and affordable housing is not their purview, it's ours. So we will continue to have to answer to the state for affordable housing, and we will. And it's our job to plan, and if we come up with something that affects to achieve affordable housing that affects the Planning Commission, we will then delegate something in the future to them. But in the meantime, it is not their job to initiate it and bring it to us. It is our job to identify it and give it to them. So with that, I'll call the question.
Motion carries with Deputy Mayor Lyons voting no.
Okay. And the city manager would like to comment.
Thank you, Mayor Ehlers. So it looks like we've pretty much got through most of the work plans for the commissions for this year. What I would like to let you know is that I will be giving direction to staff that all work plans will come as action items. It will also be presented by the chairs of the commissions, as those are the folks that come up with that. Staff, of course, does assist. We have liaisons and secretaries, but it truly does from the commissions. I'm also going to convene a group of the department heads and the liaisons. I would like to see a template that is consistent among all the work plans. This way, council, when you see them, you have the same expectations of all the commissions, although they are different and made up of different members and do have different direction and goals. I would like to see that consistency. So just so you know, the next time you see work plans come, they will be consistent, they will be on action, and they will be presented by the commission chairs with assistance of staff.
And they'll have a SMART goal with a timeline.
Yep, I mean, we can absolutely, and
That's
just
the
so.
T in SMART,
Yeah,
right? The T
absolutely.
in timing.
We will have timelines and make sure they're measurable. So I do want to just let you know that we will be implementing that, so thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. We have what, 2 more action items? Or no, 1 more. Oh, I'm sorry, because we did it. I'm sorry, we got, 3 more. So the question is, do we take a break now? Or do we pound through? Well, I guess we can do 10A. Let's do 10A. Yeah, Judy's all right there. We're going to continue. Yeah, we'll do it.
Shall I get started? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Staff report.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Judy Von Kalinowski, Human Resources Director. I'm with Lisa Rohner. Lisa Rohner is a Senior Human Resources Analyst and our lead recruiter for the city. Tonight, we're here before Council to introduce a new law that went into effect in January of 2025, and it's known as AB 2561, and it requires that all public agencies report out on vacancy rates, retention, and recruitment efforts on an annual basis, and it must be at a public hearing. It also requires that this be introduced, the vacancy rates, prior to the adoption of the final budget, and so therefore we're here tonight. It also requires that we contact the unions, and that should the vacancy rates reach 20% or higher, that they be allowed to come to council and speak with that. You will see very soon the vacancy rates. We did contact the unions. They had absolutely no concerns and actually said glowing remarks about the city and how we go about our recruitments and the vacancy rates all the way from to the very top and including council. So I just want to express that and our appreciation for that. The intent behind this new law is for accountability, transparency, and again, I want to stress our city has done an exceptional job with this, because when you have accountability and transparency, it comes down to you have great staffing, you have great morale, you have great retention, and therefore we are able to deliver the best service possible to the public. So let's get to the vacancy rates. And as you will see, we have our Firefighter Association, 5%, SEIU, 3%, Battalion Chiefs, 0%, unrepresented employees, 6%. That is phenomenal. A healthy vacancy rate is around 10 to 12%. And again, this law requires at 20% that we report out with a plan if we meet that mark. We've never been near that mark as far back as Lisa, who's been the lead recruiter for many years, she can recall. And that credit, I do want to state here that it goes to Lisa, the supporting staff, the directors, managers, supervisors, employees, executive team, city manager, and the council. It takes a group effort to make these kind of numbers show. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm very much in touch with what's going around with our region, nationally, and I couldn't be more proud. I've been with this organization for a very short time, 3 months, and I'm just absolutely impressed with these numbers. And I do want to point out, which is important to state, these numbers that you see here, 5%, 3%, 6%, they're not stale numbers. There's recruitments going on for every single one of those. So they're somewhere in the process, so they're being recruited for now. So in reality, those numbers, they fluctuate, but they're really zero at any time. So what are we going to do going forward? We're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to look at the vacancy rates. That's already been done by HR on a biweekly basis. We're going to continue to report out to council. Now, going forward, tonight, by law, it's a requirement to introduce this new law. But going forward, with our vacancy rates being so low, we'll likely incorporate this part of the presentation, the report out of the vacancy rates. We'll probably include that as part of what you're going to hear next in the budget. So with that, that concludes our formal presentation, and we will be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have.
Any questions? Do we have any public comments? We do not.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion. We need a motion for this,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay.
And I just want to take a moment to thank Judy and Lisa. This is a breath of fresh air after a very challenging item on this. So thank you, and thank you for your hard work. I want to follow up and say, commend Lisa. We have an intern at City Hall whose mom raves about how helpful you were in the process and how easy you made it. And I think all of our employees are grateful for just what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. With that, we've got a motion and a second, and we're voting. Oh. Okay. Want to try for the budget adoption too? Yep. Let's go for the budget adoption. Okay, Tom, we're on a roll. Don't feel the pressure now.
Right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. The item before you tonight is the adoption of the fiscal year 2025-26 Operating and Capital Improvement Program, CIP, budget. With me this evening is an important member of our budget team, Finance Analyst Julie Ramos. This is our fifth meeting and final milestone where the city authorizes spending through appropriations before the beginning of the new fiscal year on July 1st. The budget was introduced on May 28th, and council did not direct any changes to the proposed budget, and none are reflected in the budget presented for adoption this evening. The fiscal year 25-26 budget supports City Council's annual work plan, provides critical services to the community, and funds needed capital improvement projects. The operating and maintenance budget is balanced and continues to promote fiscal sustainability and revenues exceeding expenditures. Contingency and budget stabilization reserves are fully funded with an estimated $23.5 million in general fund reserves on July 1st, 2025. The personnel budget honors negotiated labor contracts, meets CalPERS pension obligations, and includes scheduled advancements and reclassifications. A net increase of one full-time equivalent position in the Wastewater Administration Enterprise Fund is also proposed. Staff has incorporated City's Council's direction from 3 budget workshops regarding capital and work project funding. If City Council approves the fiscal year 2025-26 operating and CIP budget as proposed, the unassigned general fund balance is projected at $500,000 on June 30th, 2026. For all funds, the proposed operating budget reflects a total city budget of $146.6 million in revenue that funds $139.9 million in expenses. The general fund operating budget includes $113.3 million in revenue that funds $106.2 million in expenditures. Proposed fiscal year 25-26 capital and work project appropriations total $16.2 million across all funds. Oops, sorry. I want to point out that this includes $5.2 million from the general fund and a total of $11.1 million from all other funds. Staff's recommendation is to adopt Resolution 2025-73, adopting the fiscal year 25-26 operating budget and CIP appropriations. Adopt Resolution 2025-74, determining and adopting the appropriation limit for fiscal year 2025-26. And adopt Resolution 2025-75, approving titles and pay ranges for the City of Encinitas for fiscal year 2025-26. Staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions of clarification? And given this is what, how many times have we gone through? We had the first hearing, but we also had several items, or several workshops. Thank you. And do we have any public speakers? No public speakers.
I'll move approval.
Okay, I've got a motion.
Second.
Okay, and I got a second. And we'll call the question. I have nobody who wants to speak. And thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Cool, excellent. Great job. Very well done, thorough budget. We appreciate all the work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we will move on. Hang on, you guys are getting ahead of me now. There we go.
And we're now moving on to, we moved with item 10C is done, right? 10D, yeah, let's move on to 10D, which is a public hearing for the consideration of adopting resolutions authorizing the annual index adjustments to the cost of services schedule, that is user fees, for planning and engineering development processing fees for fiscal year 25-26. And the contact person is still Treasurer, Director of Finance, City Treasurer Tom Gallup.
Thank you very much again. This item before you tonight is a public hearing for consideration of adopting resolutions authorizing the annual indexed adjustments to the cost of services schedule for planning and engineering development fees. The city's consultant, Wildan Financial Services, completed a comprehensive independent user fee study in 2021. The primary goal of the user fee study is to determine a reasonable cost for providing services. At the time, it was noted that the cost recovery levels for development services fees were comparatively low. To be comparable to nearby agencies, Wildan recommended an initial fee increase of 10%, followed by a 15% increase the following year. The consultant also recommended that the city include an inflationary factor based on the increase in the consumer price index to ensure that fees are adjusted as costs increase and to allow for incremental increases over time rather than large increases when studies are performed every 3 to 5 years. It was also recommended that fees be capped at 80% cost recovery rate. The initial fee increase of 10% and study recommendations were approved by the City Council on August 11th, 2021, and the fees became effective October 1st, 2021. The City Council subsequently approved a 15% increase plus an adjustment based on the increase in the CPI on June 15th, 2022, which became effective July 1st, 2022. Last year, the City Council adopted a fee schedule that included a 5.1% adjustment for fees, which was the CPI for the preceding calendar year, which became effective July 1st, 2024. State law requires that a public agency hold a public hearing to affirm any proposed fee increase, including those that are indexed. Proposed fee schedules are included as attachments 1 and 2 in the agenda report. An adjustment of 3.1% based on the CPI increase for the calendar year 2024 has been applied to the proposed fees. Staff estimates that the fiscal impact of the fee increase from the CPI adjustment will be approximately $90,000. It's important to note staff will be issuing a request for proposals to conduct a new fee study, which we anticipate completing this fall. The recommended action is to adopt resolutions 2025-69, amending the schedule of fees for planning services, and 2025-70, amending the schedule of fees for engineering services. And staff is available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, and since this is a public hearing, we'll be going through, council should disclose any other information they've received that is not included in the staff report. We'll start with Councilmember San Antonio.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to disclose.
Yep, nothing to disclose for me too. And does council have any preliminary questions on this item?
Question or clarification, as much for the public as for myself. I know I had this concern or question rather on the impact fees where it gets to the total cost and the maximum ceiling as 80%. Can you kind of just explain to people why that is at 80% and how it emeritizes? Could you please explain that?
Sure. The initial study identified the full cost of providing the services for each particular activity, which reflects the direct cost, which is the salary, benefit costs of the individuals providing the time, such as inspections or reviews, but also indirect costs. So that's the 100% cost recovery. When this was presented, the recommendation was 80%, considering there could be an economic benefit derived from some of those activities as well. But as you can see, some are low on cost recovery side, and those typically are activities such as minor plan checks, minor use permits, single-family plan checks, and that may have been a policy consideration at the time, given the fiscal impact and maybe in relation to what other cities assess for those types of permits.
And then those larger items that hit the 80% mark generally are items that amortize either through taxes or other means, and going on past once they reach the amount of the full value.
Yeah. An example would be an addition that expands the square footage of a home or a business that may increase the value of the business, the property tax that you recover from that.
I appreciate that. I know that was really helpful for me, and I hope it helped the public. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had it right along the same lines. You mentioned the 80% recovery policy on some. Can we tie that to any resolution in the past? Did we ever find?
No, it was just general direction at the time the study was presented to the city council.
And would it be helpful if we did provide a resolution? It seems to me that that would be a goal of ours, is to have a formal resolution you could point back to, and if a future council wants to change it to 100% or to 60%, whatever they might do, that at least then you have a policy say, hey, this is when it was decided. Because right now it's a little amorphous of somewhere back in history that was said.
Yeah, policy. Other cities do have policies for user fees that are similar and set percentage recovery rates that they're comfortable with for that. So that's something.
And is that something that maybe you could bring back in the future as far as an item? Maybe we could refer this to staff and to city council or to city manager to come back with whatever policy statement you want, so that we have it rooted in resolutions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Ehlers. We could absolutely do that. And also, as Director Gallup stated, we are going to do another fee study too. So yeah, absolutely. And with that, whatever council chooses on that one too, we can make sure that we codify it.
Okay. No other comments? Do we have public comments? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Oh, gonna open the public hearing. Do we have any? Okay. Yeah. After that, you're going to say no.
Yes, I'm going to piggyback on some things that have already been said. Since we are going to do a new study, I would like this study to include how much it is costing approximately, I don't know how you figure exactly, to waive all of the planning and engineering and other city fees for ADUs. Because right now, there's only a handful that have chosen to be designated as low income or deeded as such. So somebody who's doing this gets to put in an ADU. Now, yes, we will get money back eventually in the way of increased tax revenue eventually, but are other people subsidizing that free ride that the ADU builders are getting on all of their city fees, which are considerable if you want to talk about building an addition? So just something, it's nice to have an equitable playing field for everyone, and that would be something I would recommend. Thank you.
Awesome. Councilmember O'Hara.
Yeah, I would actually like to address that. I think it's important to understand that the ADU laws, SB 9, and those are imposed by the state. And they are part of an overreaching mandate. A number of the measures that we have to follow are sent down from the state that we have to follow as part of all of this. A good question would be to see if the state mandate or these mandated rules to give these waivers, lot splits, all these different aspects we're providing. Lack of parking, all those things are costing us anything. I think it's a very interesting topic to look into. My only question with that is what will we do with that information? I think that's an important part if we're going to spend money to figure that out and staff time is what are we going to do with that information once we have it? But I do think it's it would be great to know that. But to what means and what will we do with it? That would be my only question. But I do think it's important to know that a lot of the challenges with the ADUs are not of this council or from prior council. They are from the state.
Mayor, I just remind you that we need to close the public hearing.
Okay, we will close the public hearing. Thank you. And now council discussion and action. Do you yield at that point?
Yeah, yield.
Okay. And then I'll go next. First question for staff, and I'm not sure if we have the right staff here. So Ellen makes a very good point in that we're waiving, I believe, 100% of the fees, those engineering planning fees, on 100% of the ADUs, regardless of whether there is anything running with the deed. And what we found in the numbers, I think you quoted earlier tonight, it was 23% qualify as low income today, and we get to get credit on our arena for that 23% only. But the other 67% or whatever, 77% is all not deed restricted and not low income at all, and yet we're waiving it. And maybe the question for the future is, I would like to know that number that Ellen mentioned. And also I'd like to know whether in the future, when we get into this fee waiving, whether we could change the policy so that we only waive for those that are deed restricted and we don't waive for the non-deed restricted. And I don't think that I'm not sure, but it's a great question. So we also need to know, is there any requirement? But I don't believe there is a requirement from the state that we waive our ADU fees. Now, they do have things that are required, such as reduced parking requirements, reduced setbacks, improved height, and all sorts of other land use laws. But I think the fees are not necessarily, because that would be an unfunded mandate right there, and they would have trouble getting around that. So, but I think when we come back with this fee study and result, we should look at, if not sooner, maybe we consider it sooner, but I'd like to know the answer. When would the fee study be occurring?
We anticipate releasing the RFP next month, and typically the studies for these type of fees take 3 to 4 months with the department involvement. So we'd look at all the fees and potentially new fees, depending on the demand of the development services department, engineering department.
Yeah, and we might find if we bifurcate it that way, that we might encourage more low income, and that 23% might come up. We might get more credit for the ADUs with the Reno, which is what we're really wanting to buy. So, I would give that. I'm seeing nods. I'm hoping that's council
Yes.
consensus.
Yes, that sounds like a good direction.
Okay.
And just
And I'll yield to Councilmember Schaefer.
Gotcha. I was just going to ask because whatever. The deed restricted means that it's a sellable lot.
No, deed restricted means that the ADU has to be leased to a low income qualified person, and we track it. The city would track it as part of our system, but it's still part of today. With the current law, it's still sold with the house as a unit.
Gotcha. So it's not. You can't sell it separately.
Assuming it's a standard ADU today, and you would normally sell with the house.
Yeah.
There may be new laws on the book where you can bifurcate, you can split it, but I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
My intent was in the case where it's a single house with ADU, that you get the deed restriction, which we do have on some, but not on all of our ADUs.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we're giving the discount to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other council? Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, if we've gone down this road, how do we actually confirm that? How do we? And I'm asking because this is a new subject that we haven't spoke about up here. But how are we actually confirming that people of low income or who are in need of affordable housing are actually in these units, and it's not?
Because you have to turn it every year. We do it at our house.
And I want to be careful in that we're talking fees here tonight.
I know. I'm just. Okay.
So I think that's a good
Don't go down that
question.
road.
That's a good question offline to staff, and then we won't get afoul of notification laws.
I appreciate
Mayor-
the direction. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor Ehlers and council members, it definitely sounds like we've got a couple follow-up questions that I will make sure that we get council the answers.
I would like to move approval of this item 10D.
Excellent. So I have a motion. Do I have a second? That's Marco.
And that is to adopt the two resolutions, correct?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry. So we have a motion second. Let's call the vote. No.
And motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, are we just going to power right on through? Everybody okay? We're moving on. Okay, the horses can smell the barn, so we're going to power through. So we're on to item 12A, a council-initiated item from Jim O'Hara for the city attorney, development services, and other appropriate departments and sheriff's department to add an ordinance to address panhandling in the city of Encinitas. And with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember O'Hara.
Thank you. This is this is an item that is two-pronged essentially, and it's kind of it's built around the idea of for every challenge you see in the city, you also want to come up with a solution. And something we talked about up here, which is being fair and compassionate and supportive of people who need support. So it stemmed kind of out of that concept, and it's. The council item itself is recognizes that we have a non-charitable solicitations ordinance in the city, but we don't have necessarily a panhandling ordinance in the city. And kind of doing research into that and discovering the challenges that panhandling creates and the many issues that it prolongs. The public safety concerns around it, aggressive panhandling is obviously something that can scare people, can make them feel unsafe. Panhandling in certain locations is a safety hazard, increased crime affiliated with it, the impact on businesses and people that either don't want to go, it gets in the way of them going to them and frequenting our businesses, impact on quality of life, concerns about safety and cleanliness, negative impact on tourism and businesses that we might feel because people associate our community with that being a turnoff for them. And a lot of the deeper issues that maybe we don't talk about as much in this, which are drug and alcohol addiction. And I think this is where we start to get into the importance of having a solution with this, right? And that's why we dig into this. The associated deeper issues of drug, alcohol addiction, and even quite often, I know in our town at one point we the people panhandling were essentially networked, for lack of a better way to put it, creating a horrible cycle for them that this only added to. Obviously, there's public debate over the solutions for this. Want to back up as I am and go into this first. I had a great conversation with the sheriff about this, and we discussed, while the city doesn't have a panhandling specific code, it does have our municipal code, which deals with non-charitable solicitations. And he is doing a very good job at using that as a tool when appropriate. And that California Penal Code 647 is the code that he prefers to use in managing this. And I want him to have the tools that he wants and needs, or his officers need to be effective. And I'm glad to hear that we have California Penal Code in use. I appreciate that you've got that in your back pocket and that you are pursuing and using Municipal Code 652, which is our non-charitable solicitations. The other side of this, though, is while we seem to have a pretty good grasp on dealing with panhandling, I think hopefully we see less and less of it going on. We've all been there, right? We've all been in the place where we see that mom sitting on the corner with their kid, or the guy standing there with his dog, right? And you're like, I really want to help this person, but I don't know if they're going to take the money and help themselves, or if it's going to do something that prolongs this cycle they're stuck in. And so I think it's important for us up here to not only address something like panhandling as hey, it's out there, we want to affect it, but how do we positively affect it? And so on this initiated item, one of the things I've spoke to staff about it, spoke to the city manager about it, I think is really important is we want to provide the opportunity for those who want to help. And the way we want them to help is not by giving the money to the person on the corner, the person holding the sign, the person with the dog. We want to figure out a way that, hey, I want to give $20. What is a way to get it to a partner with the city who addresses these issues, that is recognized, accountable through the city, and is somebody who is looking to get the same solutions that the city council and the residents would like to see for these people. And that's a solution that helps them move forward in life, or get back on their feet, or come to a healthy term, or get connected to what some people call their heart, or their community. And so within that, what I'm really asking tonight is, and I think this would be lost if we hadn't addressed the panhandling side on the front of it and the cause for it. What I'm really looking forward for us to do is to send this to staff with, hey, we want to provide an alternative so that when you get off the highway and you see that person standing there, you're like, I don't know if I can give them money, but I know I can go and I can go to, and hopefully we'll put something through our 101s or our chamber where people can easily access the ability to put on the website, hey, I want to donate. Put on the My Encinitas app. I want to donate to, again, these partners. I'm going to do my $20 there because I know it will actually help that person that I see. And so this is a solution-oriented item. So with that, I'd like to take questions, public comment, of course, if there is any. And I'd love to talk about this and see what we can do.
We have public comment.
We do have 4.
Any preliminary questions? I'll just check that. No? Okay, so let's go to public comment.
Natalie Satoon, Ellen Burr, Elizabeth Whitaker, and then Rachel Graves.
Hi. I have a couple of examples that I'd like you to see. This is my girlfriend, Krista, and Krista is a graduate 7 years ago from Solutions for Change. This is her before and after photo, and she has given me permission to share her story and her opposition to panhandling. She let me know that panhandling delayed her recovery. It delayed her children from coming home, so now her 2 young children have been back in her custody for the last 7 years. So I also have some, in fact, I actually called CHP on my way here today because a panhandler was on the off-ramp with a whole bunch of signage on Encinitas Boulevard and closest to the car wash. So this is really important. I think there are some more examples. So this is Krista's story. I would love for people to read this. She still reaches out to discourage people from panhandling. And I would also like to say we have a prolific panhandling issue right by OG's that causes fires. We've had a lot of people living in there out of convenience. And 2 years ago, we had 4 fires in the OG's Canyon, which obviously it's against our municipal code. And then we also have a big problem at Vaughn's, where the same person goes to Vaughn's routinely, almost daily, and he laughs because he'll go over to the Encinitas Community Park, get in the skate park with all of the young kids and throw his glass bottles that he signed for. People say, how do you sign for something when you go to Vaughn's? He said, I just hold up this sign and people give me money. So he goes to our skate park and takes his glass bottles and throws his glass bottles and gets drunk and has to get arrested. So this is why I am absolutely supportive of this. Thank you so much, Jim, for bringing this up. We tend to forget the humane side of the recovery process, and we just prolong detriment to the people who really need help. And I also have one last thing. The city, we also support grant funds for community partners, and we provide the resources. So it's really important that we support our own grant funds and not contradict things. And I appreciate that the Sheriff's Department is taking a zero tolerance. So thank you.
Any law or regulation is only as good as you enforce it. And if this isn't going to be something that we are going to enforce, or that we want our much-needed staff to be spending their time enforcing, we shouldn't be going there. We have regulations already regarding loitering and solicitation and no bikes and skateboards and other devices in public and private areas. We cannot be catcher in the rye. We have homeless regulations. Frankly, the people I am more bothered by the people who are with their clipboards trying to canvass or get me to sign on for some referendum. They are much more belligerent and aggressive than any panhandler I have seen here. I go to Vaughn's at least once a week. And I would say the guys in the median and the off-ramp are doing us a service, because it slows people down, because nobody wants to hit them or have their car messed up by them. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you. I very much respect that you are serving here, and while I'm in opposition, I think of what you're saying. Some of it I'm not in opposition of. If we are talking about assault or harassment, I want to call it that, and I can get behind enforcing those rules. I don't like to be harassed. I don't like to be assaulted. I don't like to feel unsafe. If we're talking about ending homelessness, we should talk about that based on evidence of what's working and not criminalization. I think people do know how to donate money to organizations that they are interested in, but if they don't, I fully support the city getting behind that. And even putting up signage that says, like, you don't have to give money to an individual, you can give it here. I think that's a great idea. But as for the criminalization of panhandling, I assert that it is the wrong path for Encinitas. We do not want police trying to solve a social problem. Criminalization of panhandling pushes already disenfranchised people further into poverty, and marginalization related to cycles of fines, arrests, and incarceration. So people who are arrested or criminalized for this behavior don't stop doing the behavior. They get in a vicious cycle of criminalization. It infringes on our constitutional freedoms. Restricting speech has led to constitutional challenges based on freedom of expression and puts Encinitas at risk. It's not illegal to ask for help. And if I'm stranded somewhere and maybe I look a little disheveled and I ask for help, I don't think that's fair to put me in cuffs for that. Criminal penalties disproportionately impact marginalized communities. Enforcement becomes based on the perception of poverty. Asking for help is not a criminal act. Seattle, Indianapolis, Denver, and Toronto have criminalized panhandling in the past 15 years. In every case, this caused displacement rather than the elimination of panhandling. So when we stop it on one corner, it moves to another. People are going to ask for what they need. People end up worse off, and community resources are strained by perpetual enforcement. There's also a lot of literature that shows all of the resources get strained by very few people, meaning repeat offenders over and over again, instead of actually solving a systemic issue. When we infringe on one human being's civil liberties, such as speech, we put all of our rights at risk as a community. Please refrain from infringing on our rights of free expression. You often speak about government overreach being problematic, and I don't want us as Encinitas Council, as Encinitas residents, to be part of the problem. Don't be that overreaching government. Thank you.
last time tonight. Thank you, Jim O'Hara, for putting this agenda item forth. Chula Vista, El Cajon, Carlsbad, Santee, and probably some others have done just the same. I know that we do contribute funds to interfaith and also to legal services, and I just want to encourage everyone, our whole city, to do kind of what we're doing here recently, and with the fourth HAP goal of realizing that what we have been doing is not working. We need to rethink what compassion means. And I encourage you to watch a podcast by Greg Anglia. He interviews on his podcast Terry Peters, she's a public defender, and Tom Christie, who is also an attorney who works for the homeless court. It's on homelessinsandiego.org, his podcast. You will change your mind about what a citation does to a homeless person in need. They go on for 45 minutes talking about how citations and the need to get out of the fines and get their driver's licenses back, get their cars back, get their children back, changes their life dramatically if introduced to this group. They tell us that the homeless people have a very tight network. They all know about this program. They learn about it on the buses. They learn about it on the streets. They describe the citation program, where they go there to have their fines removed, as the achievement program. They describe it as, the accomplishment program. And they describe it as the stability program. They, in the process of getting fines forgiven, infractions removed, they remove all these barriers to these people's getting jobs. They set them up with Palomar College to get them in school. They get their children back. They have a 95% or higher percentage of clients to show up to their court session. In 2018 or 19, I can't remember because they've deleted the news article about it, Greg Anglia bragged that he had forgiven $180-something thousand of fines in that year. Imagine how many people he helped. And only because they got citations. Please know that when somebody is in need of getting these citations, getting their driver's license back so they can get their children back, it can help them. We have resources that we commit our tax dollars to help these people actually get their lives back instead of sitting out on the street panhandling for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, Councilmember Schaefer.
Captain Watts, per that last comment about the citation program, when somebody is arrested, is there a way through their arrest that they'll find out about this citation program, or that they can be introduced to this as one more resource, I guess, to help them along?
Yes, I think that within that community, I think that they understand that they have the homeless court and that they can go to see, to get assistance with maybe having that fine reduced or expunged altogether, with the option of services too at that time. So with these, what we're trying to do is break that cycle of addiction or whatever it is that they're dealing with that has put them in the current situation. And through a citation, like was explained, that can be a triggering point for those individuals. Yes.
Awesome. Well, that's great. That's another resource. Plus, it's a sticking point for what seems to be I'm going to say a win-win for at least the residents. Maybe that individual, if they choose not that, it's not a win, obviously, but it's a win-win for the residents, but it's also a win-win for them because it might be for lack of a better term, the rock bottom that allows to start actually making steps in the right direction. So that's good to know that it's a final olive branch to kind of get out of that cycle that you said. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lyons.
Yes, I appreciate this dialogue. I think it's we all want to help our community, both those who are asking for help and our community who might feel that there's an issue that they feel threatened by. So this is an ongoing dialogue. We're always trying to hit the right level. So I appreciate that you've brought this up. Thank you. What I understand is that we, and I think Councilmember O'Hara alluded to it already in his introduction, is that we already do have some ordinances in place, and it was always my belief that we had the right ordinances in place in this regard. And that's the non-solicitation ordinance, which I understand I've been involved in some of that being implemented. That's the 6.52.010, and that's our local municipal code. And then there's the aggressive panhandling code, which is the California Penal Code, which is the 647C. It was my belief that that was going to be covering everything we need. And after talking to you and kind of peppering you with some questions, thank you for your response in our briefing and through dialogue and associated with that, and hearing some additional comments tonight, I do feel we're covered with what we need as far as our codes and our ordinances regarding this. Also, I want to suggest that we look at things across the board at being fiscally prudent. And I think along those lines, we don't want to duplicate our efforts. We don't want to put a lot of staff time and staff costs into creating a new ordinance that might already be covered by existing ordinances. So I appreciate the dialogue, though, and what I would like to support is the zero tolerance enforcement. And I know, Captain Watts, you're engaged in that and are committing to it. So if there's the opportunity to put a motion forward, I would do that in complimenting that this is a good conversation to have. The solution here may be more focused on enforcement. Captain Watts, would you like to share some thoughts about enforcement and if there's some action that should be taken tonight associated with that?
Yeah, I think this is a great conversation. The penal code section, the 647C section, is for that aggressive, threatening, impeding your movement kind of action. But what that does is it puts the onus on the victim. So the victim has to then call, the victim has to be the victim and go to court. What our city municipal code allows me is to be proactive and not wait for that to arise to that level and put one of our community members in that situation. I can be proactive in our approach with that zero tolerance, and we can go address the behavior before it gets to that level. So that's what we have been doing, is enforcing that municipal code. So it's a great tool for us, and it, like I said, it alleviates the community from having to be a victim.
Thank you for that.
I'm going to go now. One of my concerns has always been panhandlers standing in the median and even stepping out into traffic and going into the second turn lane or whatever. You see it fairly frequently, and that to me has always been, I don't see Girl Scouts doing that. You know, I just generally don't. So I think we should discourage that through whatever means as an overall safety improvement. The other thing I would say is the panhandlers that I think are violating our municipal code are typically service resistant in nature, or just panhandling because they don't want to enter back into society. So I do support what you've talked about. I'm going to ask Staff, we got a briefing email from Captain Watts today that the city manager forwarded to us. Did that get posted with the agenda item? I think it might be a good thing to post there. It's been said here tonight, but it's good information.
Yeah, we can absolutely post it. Captain Watts did send information on the 647 penal code as well as our municipal code. Also, too, they have done enforcement. We've had 6 individuals that have been cited for our municipal code, not the penal code, as that is, a more aggressive panhandling. But yeah, we can absolutely. After the meeting, we can post basically just the information that Captain Watts did send.
Okay, and it's essentially, we've said it here, but I think having it in writing always helps. Question for Captain Watts with the 6.52.010. I think Natalie showed some examples. Would that be covered in that case? Was that considered a non-permitted or non-charitable solicitation? Thank you.
Yes, that is exactly what we're enforcing under that section, yes.
So if you view it as a safety hazard particular, you might take action more proactively there?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if there are other violations.
And if somebody is out and about in Encinitas and I'm still on the municipal code, the solicitation, not the aggressive, what should they do? Should they My Encinitas app? How do they alert the sheriff? You don't want them. It's not a 911 situation, but if they see something they think might be a person in need, or even a person that's putting themselves in a dangerous situation out in the middle of traffic, what's the best way to report it?
Yeah, good question. I would recommend that we call the non-emergency line. And do the My Encinitas app. I think it's important that we do both. The My Encinitas app does go to myself and several others within the office, so we can see it real time, so to speak. But then also calling the non-emergency line actually triggers a call, logs a call, and something that we can track on that side too.
Okay, now I'm going to step up to the penal code, which is truly aggressive behavior. What should people do there? Is that same thing, or do they go 911 if they feel threatened?
Yeah, with the aggressive behavior, I mean, that is going to be, the physical contact, the not taking no for an answer, impeding somebody's movement. That's a 911 call. We would like to be there as soon as we can.
What about somebody in smaller stature feeling physically threatened? That would trigger it too, wouldn't? At what level does it
would be
become
the
assault?
action of the perpetrator. So they would have to be doing something that would be considered threatening in nature or physical contact, like I said, or impeding. If the person is just merely big in stature, that's not going to qualify. If they're not being physically or threatening.
And somebody who is at that level, being subject to that level, they call 911 or
yes,
911?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
yes.
if it's a matter of safety, 911.
Correct.
Okay,
absolutely.
Cool. I appreciate that. I support where we're going with this. This is part of the carrot and stick I talk about, the enforcement we added to the HAP. I like the idea of listening to the podcast. I like the can you fill us in more on the accomplishment or whatever? Is there in the case of the citations for the municipal code, is there a program whereby homeless go to, I think you said homeless court, and tell us more about that.
Yeah, so there is a program where individuals that are socially and economically impacted and don't have the means to either get to court or pay fines imposed by citations, that they can reach out. There is the what we call the homeless court that they can go to. It's free, and it will help them. They will guide them through the process, and they do have the capability of, like I said, reducing the fine or expunging the fine altogether.
Good. Okay. With that, I will yield to Councilmember O'Hara.
Again, just circling back, I think an important point was made. We're not looking to criminalize anybody or any behavior up here, and I think that hopefully that's been put out here, and I think it's really important. to address with the sheriff. I feel like from what I've seen, and I haven't, with my back, I haven't been able to do a ride along with you or a walk along, but I've been at 7-Eleven during events where the sheriff has needed to be involved. And I think when we get to something like a 6.52, the non-charitable solicitation, I feel like your approach first is more of an intervention than addressing somebody as a criminal. And I feel like that's an important thing to note here. There is that step in to help and what it becomes and where we go from there. And it's not an immediate jump to, as far as the 652 goes, which is that non-charitable solicitation. There is not a jump to fine. There is not a jump to, it's stepping in first, jumping on the fine with again, the zero tolerance we talked about, but that aspect of intervention is compassion and not criminalization. I think that's an important piece that I've witnessed with our sheriffs, and I think is a really important piece to mention. Obviously, when it changes to the panhandling, the penal code, it is a much more critical situation, and it's much different to step into that once 911 has been called. I do want to make sure, though, that we've had a great conversation about the challenges in this and the importance of it and what we can do with this and the tool it is for our sheriffs. I don't want to have, and I appreciate the motion for the first part of this. I do want to make sure that option or portion of this number 2, the second portion.
I just want to clarify, I actually didn't make a motion. I said if I was to make one, but I did not.
Okay, so I want to make sure that number 2, this concept of deciding a way for people to make the appropriate support of these people that they need, as opposed to the dilemma of how do I know if I'm helping this person or not when I give them the money? Am I prolonging their problem or am I helping them? I think we do a great service to our city and our residents, really, for peace of mind, to figure out how to do that. And then we can make something like the accomplishment program or any partner that we deem appropriate for this to be more effective. Mm-hmm. Our residents can literally speak and support these programs that will help these people. So I want to make sure that stays on this. I don't know if I'm allowed to put a motion since it's my initiative, but I would like to just be the first motion of to continue to encourage our sheriffs to use both Code 6.52 and Code 647 when appropriate and necessary to do their job as a tool. And to, number 2, offer an alternative to those who wish to support those who are in need of support through recognizable and easy accessible options that staff and council will agree to and bring back to us.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Ehlers. Thank you, Councilmember O'Hara and I had a conversation about this. I actually told him I did a little bit of research a couple years ago on a couple cities that had panhandling ordinances as well as sort of giving campaigns. So we've got some great examples of other partner cities that have done that. So I think it's very reasonable a request. I do appreciate the input from Captain Watts today and really kind of clarifying. It's great when we already have some wonderful ordinances. We know they're working and that we know that they're enforceable and we are enforcing them. But it's nice to have that humane approach. So I am very happy to, if council today is able to support, happy to bring back after the break, sort of like a giving campaign for unhoused and unsheltered to receive services. But, you know, we want to make sure that we run through the partners or whoever we would be giving and how we would go about that, whether it's QR codes, again, working with a lot of our main streets and business associations. So if council so chooses to do this tonight, I've actually done a little bit of research, so it's very doable. So thank you for bringing this item up.
Super.
Motion to second on the table. Call the question, I guess. There we go. Wow. And so next we will do AB 1234 reports, starting with Councilmember San Antonio.
I attended the Sandag Board of Directors meeting. Honestly, I know Bruce normally attends these, but Mayor Ehlers does. Everything was just basically approval, so it wasn't nothing to really too much to report, right?
Yep, you don't have to.
Yeah, there's not,
There was no big action.
yeah, nothing, no big action, so. That was it?
Councilmember
This
Schaefer.
morning, myself and Mayor Ehlers attended the Fire Safety Council meeting, or the Fire Committee, sorry.
Fire Governance
Fire Governance
Subcommittee.
Committee with Solana Beach and Del Mar. We delivered them the letter letting them know that we will be departing that in a 9-month period. And that's all I have to report.
On Tuesday, myself and Councilmember Schaefer attended the San Elijo Joint Powers meeting down at the San Elijo campus. We discussed, there was an emergency main repair that they did, and they did it, as always down there, they did a fantastic job of getting it done in a timely fashion on a great budget. The SEDGPA, as we like to refer to it, continues to operate remarkably well, and they are so on top of it. So rest assured that they are taking care of their job down there. I also attended the Carlsbad City Council meeting last night, of which I participated as a resident. And, the last item on it was our neighborhood voices, and so I've now heard several times throughout from several members of councils across the state that League of California Cities is going to take care of the state mandate and that we don't need to do the Our Neighborhood Voices. League of California Cities has mixed position on Our Neighborhood Voices. The Cal Cities initiative initially referred to the resolution on its policy committees for further review, which indicates basically that they're not taking a firm stance in support of our opposition until they have further analysis or an election. So now multiple representatives from various cities have said that they're going to rely on the League of California Cities to lobby the state to establish and or reestablish local control and address the state mandate. However, I found the League of California Cities did not release their record of how its representatives have voted on League and California City committees and commissions. In other words, they go into this committee that deals with the Our Neighborhood Voices, and we don't know how they voted. They might publicly say they support it, and they go in there and we don't know how they vote. So I'm as we go into summertime, I'm going to reach out. I'm asking our League of California Cities representatives here to my left to request that our Encinitas Council representatives begin petitioning the League of California Cities to make their members' voting records available to all the public. I task you guys with that. I think it's unbelievably important if we're trying to create transparency in this process within the state. And I know I'm maybe a little out of turn. This isn't the space you expected to put it, but we're going to run out of time if I wait to the end of summer, so I'm saying it right now. Thank you.
I'll do a AB 1234 report, and I attended the Encina Wastewater Authority's Capital Improvement Committee this morning. I attended the Lausanne Metrolink board meeting on Monday, and last Friday I also attended SANDAG as the San Diego County Water Authority representative. That concludes my report.
And Councilmember Schaefer already hit my report. I would add one more thing to the fire governance. March 31st is the target date for the exit of Encinitas from the cooperative agreement. And with that, we'll move on to city manager report.
Thank you. I asked Captain Watts to stay because I was going to give him some kudos. So today, residents may have noticed a lot of sheriff's deputies out and about. With Captain Watts' leadership and coordination, we went ahead and did some major traffic enforcement throughout the city to, again, catch people running red lights, speeding, distracted drivers. And I know to this council and our residents, the safety on our roads of our drivers, our bikers, our walkers has been paramount, especially with some of the things that have happened. So I can't express enough gratitude to Captain Watts and our sheriff's deputies for truly caring about our city and keeping it safe. And so I've already told Captain Watts I'm excited to see what the outcome of this was. But I know he let us know in our exec team call this morning, hey, make sure when you're going to work, we're out and about. So I'm very excited. And also, too, with the passage of the adopted budget tonight, council did approve 2 new traffic deputies. So I already asked Shane, when do you start recruiting? So it'll be really great. So we'll have additional resources in our city, as I know public safety is utmost important to this council, myself, Captain Watts, and the residents of our city. I do have one more. We do have the Encinitas Sustainable Solutions Fair. It will be this Sunday, June 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. over at the Encinitas Community Park. This is in partnership with the I Love a Clean San Diego. So people can visit educational booths. They can learn DIY activities that are sustainable. They can bring their own bag and cups for drinks. They're also doing kind of like a little bit of a swap meet and things like that. So if you're looking for something fun and sustainable, we have that event going on this Sunday. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
And I wanted to comment, thank you. I saw 3 traffic units on my way in this morning to the morning meeting, so excellent. And that's before we add people. Awesome.
And he only got pulled over twice.
That's right, yeah. Well, no, they didn't catch me the second time. I lost them downtown. City Attorney report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report this evening.
Okay, and City Clerk report. No report. And we will adjourn at 8:59. Thank you.